There are punishments worse than death, because death ends a life. But some punishments try to erase the fact that a life ever happened at all. In ancient Rome, this was one of the darkest forms of power. Not just killing a person, but attacking their memory. Their name would be carved out. Their face would be destroyed. Their statues would be broken. Their existence would be treated like a mistake history needed to correct. The Romans had a name for this kind of erasure: Damnatio Memoriae, the condemnation of memory. And what makes it so disturbing is not only its cruelty, it is the fear beneath it. Because buried inside this punishment is one of the oldest human terrors of all. What if dying is not the end? What if being forgotten is? Damnatio Memoriae is usually translated as the condemnation of memory, but that phrase can sound almost abstract until you understand what it meant in practice. This was not simply hatred toward the dead. It was a political act, a public decision that a person's memory should be attacked, their image damaged, their name removed, and their place in the story of Rome denied. The goal was not only punishment, it was replacement, to make the condemned person appear illegitimate, dishonorable, or unworthy of remembrance. In other words, Rome was not satisfied with defeating certain people in life. It wanted to control how they existed after death. That is what made this punishment so cold. It did not end with the body. It moved into stone, into language, into public memory. And once power reaches that far, it is no longer only governing people, it is governing reality itself. To understand why Damnatio Memoriae felt worse than death, you have to understand how ancient people thought about memory. For us, memory can feel personal, private, almost emotional. But in the ancient world, remembrance was part of survival. A name carried honor. A face carried status. A lineage carried meaning. To be remembered was to remain present in the world, even after the body was gone. That is why erasure felt so severe. It did not simply punish a person's crimes or failures. It threatened to strip away the only form of continuation that most human beings could hope for. Not immortality of the body, but immortality of recognition. And once that is taken away, death begins to feel incomplete. Because now the punishment is no longer just physical, it becomes symbolic, a second death. The death of reputation, the death of identity, the death of being acknowledged by those who come after you. That is what made Damnatio Memoriae so psychologically brutal. It attacked the human hope that something of us might remain. And whether we live in ancient Rome or the modern world, that fear still lingers. Not just of dying, but of disappearing. Damnatio Memoriae was not just an idea. It had visible, physical consequences. If Rome decided that a person no longer deserved remembrance, the attack often began with their image. Statues could be mutilated, faces could be chiseled away, names could be removed from inscriptions, portraits could be destroyed or replaced. What mattered was not perfection, it was the message. The public had to see that this person's place in memory had been broken. That is why the damage itself was often left visible: a missing face, a carved-out name, a broken monument. These were not just acts of destruction, they were signals. Signals that power had reached backward into memory and altered what the public was allowed to see. In some cases, honors were revoked. Images disappeared from public spaces. Even official records could be adjusted to reduce a person's legitimacy. This is what makes Damnatio Memoriae so disturbing. It turned memory into a battlefield. not a battlefield of armies, but of symbols. And in that battlefield, stone became language, absence became propaganda, and forgetting became policy. The most chilling part of Damnatio Memoriae is that it was not only theoretical, it happened to real people. And in some cases, the damage still survives. You can still see faces cut from stone, names removed from inscriptions, gaps where a person once stood inside official history. One of the most famous examples is Geta. After the Emperor Septimius Severus died, his sons Caracalla and Geta were meant to rule together. But the arrangement collapsed. Caracalla had Geta murdered, and after his death, Geta's image was systematically attacked. His face was removed from paintings. His name was erased. His presence was cut out of the visual memory of the empire. That is what makes these cases so haunting. They are not metaphors. They are physical scars left behind by power. And Geta was not alone. Other figures, including Domitian, were also targeted after death, their memory reshaped by those who came after them. This is why damaged statues matter so much. They are not only ruins, they are evidence. Evidence that memory was not left to time alone. It was edited. And once you see that, ancient Rome starts to feel less distant. Because every society wants to believe that history is something it inherits. But again and again, history turns out to be something people fight to control. And yet, for all its brutality, Damnatio Memoriae contains a strange weakness. It never fully works. Because erasure leaves traces. A missing face is still a face that was targeted. A carved-out name still tells us that a name once stood there. A broken monument still announces that someone mattered enough to be destroyed. That is the paradox at the heart of this punishment. The more power tries to remove a person from memory, the more it reveals its own fear of that person remaining. In other words, Damnatio Memoriae does not create silence. It creates a scar, and scars speak. They tell us that something happened here, that someone was once visible, that memory was attacked, not by time, but by intention. This is why the erased still survive, not always in the form they wanted, not in honor, not in peace, but in damage. And sometimes damage is enough, because once later, generations begin asking why a face was cut away, or why a name was removed. The attempt at forgetting starts to fail. The condemned return, not as restored heroes, but as evidence. Evidence that memory can be wounded, but never fully mastered. In the end, Damnatio Memoriae is disturbing for a reason that goes far beyond Rome. It exposes something deeply human. Most people do not expect to become immortal, but they do hope, in some form, to remain. In memory, in family, in language, in the minds of those who come after them. That hope is fragile, and Damnatio Memoriae was designed to attack it directly, not just by killing the body, but by declaring that even remembrance was too much to allow. That is what makes it feel so cold, even now. Because beneath the damaged statues and erased names, the punishment points toward a fear that still exists in all of us. Not only the fear of death, but the fear that nothing of us will remain, that our names will fade, that our faces will lose meaning, that time will pass over us as if we were never here at all. Maybe that is why the Romans understood this punishment so well, because they understood that memory is not a soft thing. It is a form of survival, and to be denied, it is to suffer a second death. That is why Damnatio Memoriae still lingers, not just as an ancient punishment, but as a warning. That power does not only want obedience. Sometimes it wants silence, And sometimes, what survives history is not the person, but the scar left behind when someone tried to make them disappear.